Who doesn't love a good old winding corridor dungeon with endless content? Well, Persona, especially modern Persona, really likes this, so much so that they refuse to get rid of it. P Studios really seems to enjoy this concept, either for novelty, or maybe it's something they want to perfect. And there's nothing really wrong with that. But it does beg the question of what's next for this kind of dungeon. Or in Persona 5's case, what's next for Mementos?
Deep into Mementos.
So what parts of this formula has P Studios done well? One of the hardest things to get right in this kind of monotonous dungeon is making it engaging. Thankfully, a lot of external factors are responsible for keeping Mementos itself engaging. Since exploring this dungeon spans the entire story, it's important to find a way to tie the gameplay into the story, which it does via requests. Completing requests not only gives you small rewards, but also allows you to advance your social links. If you don't do requests, you can't actually advance Mishima's link. But that's not all. They also weaved other social links into this as well. Almost every side character confidant has a Mementos request that blocks you from progressing forward. All of these logically make sense and provide a good reward for completing them. Putting aside my issues of the structure of these requests, I think the system as a whole is very well thought out. Mementos serves as a palace of the general public, which gives you a chance to utilize changes of hearts for the sake of people that you're bonding with, as opposed to just the overall plot. With Royal came the addition of the stamp minigame as well. It's not much, but giving bonuses while slowly descending the long winding Mementos dungeon is a good way to incentivize players to keep going. It makes grinding in Mementos a lot easier, which is a welcome addition with the already simple grinding system the game has. Then also comes Jose. Jose adds a shop and a safety net into Mementos. If a player misses will seeds, then Jose offers them for a hefty price of some juice. He also has a lot of neat wares like blank cards and transmutation items that you'll need for some itemization and building your party. As you progress through the game, you'll likely acquire skills that enhance the speed at which you can progress through Mementos as well. In a way, P Studios does understand the monotonous feeling this dungeon gives, and the desire not to spend so many more hours grinding. But of course, as much as I praise P Studios for getting Mementos almost right, I still think there are things that could be improved about it. I understand that part of the purpose and theme of this dungeon is that it is supposed to be monotonous. If we're getting into the game's ending arc, or the vanilla Persona 5's ending arc, the public basically just doesn't want to think. They want the decisions made for them, and so forth. So the dungeon is long, winding, and monotonous because the public just wants to live a very monotonous and controlled life.
Stop it! Don't touch the Holy Grail!
But I don't think you need to hammer the point home so hard. The story conveys its messages pretty well, and having a dungeon structured around that is fine, but Mementos can feel a little excessive. So I'm going to tackle the points I just made before with things that I think should be improved upon. I said before that weaving side content of confidants into Mementos requests is ultimately good, but what about the main story? Up until the very end, Mementos is kind of a side dish to the main plot. When it's introduced, we actually use it to get hints towards our next target, Madarame. This never happens again.
What about Madarame? He stole everything from me, but you're letting him off the hook?
The main story kind of stays out of Mementos for the future targets, and that's kind of a shame. I feel like it could have been used a bit more in finding details on certain targets like Kaneshiro.
Where did you learn about those kinds of things?
But none of this is so black and white either. It's not like altering this and adding new scenes into Mementos would really bolster the plot as a whole. Without changing anything about the Kaneshiro sequence already and just adding a Mementos segment into it, all you would do is just add more to an already kind of long segment of the story. You need a bit larger of a plot overhaul in order to fit that in there. In short, I really do just wish Mementos felt a little bit more ingrained into the main plot outside of Morgana's memories and the end of the game. Now onto the stamp minigame. Why are there so many of these? There are more of them than floors in the dungeon. Why? Going up and down floors to find more of these stamps gets kind of annoying. It's tedious. I don't mean to say that having it be tedious sometimes completely ruins the experience, but it stops being fun after you keep going up and down floors trying to find the next stamp. If you're really here to max out all the rewards, it just takes way too much time. I think the stamp minigame is great on the surface, but I don't think we should really have to retread extra floors for additional stamps. And while our traveling merchant egg boy is a welcome addition to the descent into the depths, he also just kind of loses his purpose eventually. Chances are, if you aren't someone who's interested in building personas as opposed to fusing new ones, the utilization of skill cards and itemization materials might be lost on you. And if you don't miss will seeds, then Jose's shop really doesn't serve that much of a purpose. Mementos is a preservation of an older era. The randomly generated dungeon floors existed at a time where crafting fully unique dungeons wasn't really feasible for this company. Now it does get its own crafted dungeon in the end, but my point stands that I don't know how much we need a long, winding, and very flat dungeon. But if it's here to stay, then I hope it becomes another piece of the series that gets honed and crafted to the best it could be.
Good job.
Persona 6 is definitely going to follow different themes from 5. Mementos, as it exists now, is likely not going to be specifically the same way in Persona 6. Persona 6 is definitely not going to be following the same themes from 5. Mementos, conceptually as it is now, will not exist in 6, but will likely be replaced with something different and new. If it's difficult to write it into the story though, then maybe it's best to abandon the concept of a long, winding, flat dungeon anyways. But if it's in the works, and it does work, then I hope that it gets a shiny new coat of paint with some extra work on the internals. This is just all my thoughts on Mementos, and I guess randomly generated floor dungeons as well in Persona. If you agree or disagree or have your own opinions, you can drop them down in the comments, and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel for more things JRPG, Atlus, and Persona related, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.